Okay, Mishlei 12:12. I don't think I've learned this pasuk before, so that's always an exciting thing. To find a pasuk that I haven't done before. Okay, Chamad Rasha Mitzod Ra'im V'Shorish Tzadikim Yitain, and the word that is most difficult is mitzod. Okay, so I put the dictionary here. Mitzod is either matzod, which is siege works, like basically when you are in an army and you're invading, like let's say like a walled city, and you build like a whole like scaffolding to like invade the city. Okay. Second one is matzod, a hunting implement. I think related to the word sad, like a trap. Mitzoda is a net for fish, and then mitzoda is a stronghold. Okay, like I don't know if this indicates that we've been mispronouncing wrong. I thought Mitsu is pronounced Mitsudas David or Mitsudas ציון, but that's the same word though. Either way, like a stronghold. Okay, so you got a choice of 4 here. Okay, who wants to try translating?
What's Chamad?
Losach mode,
Okay.
like Nisar Zebros, if that helps. Chemda.
Coveting a wicked person is a trap for evil people. Okay,
so this is one where I think you have to where the predicate is coming before the subject. So a wicked person, okay, so a Russia covets. Now I realize that this is in the past tense, but I'm going to go ahead and go with the present tense because I think it makes more sense here. Russia covets the. Okay, so we have. I feel like it's not siege works. Okay, so let's go with the other ones here. Okay, so the fortress, net or trap of the evil people. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, and the tzadikim give a root, something like that.
Okay, yeah. So this is definitely ambiguous here. Okay, so either let me just break this into okay, one possibility is, and the tzadikim give a root. Okay, what would be the other way to translate that second half?
The root of tzadikim he will give, maybe.
Yeah, so the root of the tzadikim will give. Okay, the root of tzadikim will give. Okay, yeah. Let me just get this here. Okay, so that is our translation. Okay, let's look at. I'm just going to move this down here because we have to do that anyway. Tzadikim says Matzod is surprise. He translates it as fortress. Okay. So Inyano Mivtzar Chazak. It's a strong fortress. Kamo Yavau Bimitsudos. Okay, like they will go into fortresses. Okay. Sadigon, I'm not 100% sure how to translate Sadigon. So I think he says, I don't know if it is Muhammad Harasha Mivtzar Harashayim that he covets, and this is just a different word for covet. I'm going to translate anyway. Hold on a second. The Russia, I don't know what Muhammad is. That's the only problem. I think he's making it in. I know it's Muhammad, but that's not what the word is here. I think he's making it into a present tense instead of the past tense. So I'm going to assume that the Russia covets the fortress of the resha'im. Okay, so he just equates those. The tzadikim, but the tzadikim yinasin lahem kafi shorasham will be granted in accordance with their root. Okay, it's a little bit smoother than the straight translation. Targum ra'ig rashia mitsudita bishta the ikarhon de tzadike niskayim. So he says, this is almost a straight translation, except he's saying that the Russia desires an evil fortress or a bad fortress. Okay, so he's taking fortress of evil to a bad or evil fortress. Okay, I'm not going to list that because I think that'll probably be included. Okay, now we got our English ones. Our scroll says a wicked person craves spoils of evildoers. So that's not like any of them. I guess it's the stuff that you trap. Okay, so I guess we'll keep that there. But the root of the righteous will provide for them. Okay, that's a very difficult translation. Living Knox says the wicked man craves the hunt of the evil. So he goes with like a trapping implement, but the root of the righteous will endure. Okay, that's also different. Reverse says the wicked one desires the prey of evil men. So mitzod of ra'im, yet contributes to the root of the righteous. So he's saying that the subject of the verb yitain is the rasha. The rasha will give to the root of the righteous. And then Alter says the wicked covets the men's trap. Does he delete the word ra'im? Okay, but the root of the righteous man stands firm. Let's see his explanation. He says the wicked covets the evil man's trap. The Hebrew is a little obscure. It could mean that he covets whatever is caught in the evil man's trap, or perhaps that he envies the malicious ingenuity that is manifest in contriving the trap. Stands firm. This translation reads with the Septuagint, yikom, for the Masoretic yitain. Okay, so he changes the text. All right, so we're not interested in this. Okay. All right, so let's just put Sadi going down here.
He keeps on doing that.
Yeah, that's his derech. He see, just to explain what Alter does. Okay, so we use the Masoretic text because we follow the Masorah. And the only way we would change it is like if there was let's say occasionally you get a machlokes between let's say the Talmud Bavli and the people who maintain the Masorah of the Torah Chsav. So we'll have to be forced to pick one, or we'll keep both of them. But he's working with Septuagint, Dead Sea Scrolls, Alexandrian translation, all of these other versions of the Torah, and he's treating them all on par because to him, our version is just one of many versions. So he's very, very basically what we do in, let's say when we're learning Gemara and there's different versions of the Gemara of different Rishonim, and we kind of pick whichever one makes the most sense. He kind of does that with the text of the Tanakh. So that's just not our derech. Okay. So that is our pasuk here. Okay, not the easiest pasuk to read even. All right, what are the questions?
What are the English translated as?
What are the what?
The English translation, how do they translate it? Did we look at that?
Am I not sharing the English?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm spacing
okay, that's okay. Yeah. It's that difficult that it didn't even register.
I was so focused on the yeah.
Okay, what are the questions here? Yeah, Isaiah.
It's funny that there's a rasha and he's doing something to a raw person. If you translate it like that.
Yeah. He's coveting for other people.
Yeah.
Right.
So I just think that's weird.
Okay, yeah. I'm gonna let's just translate that into a question here, which is why does the rasha covet what other resha'im have, and what does this say about his relationship to his own kind? Okay, I'm just making it in general. Yeah. Next. Dad?
When we talk about the root of the tzadikim?
Yeah, okay. What does root of tzadikim refer to? And let's add on to that. And is it giving or being given? You know what? I actually want to change the translation here. I'm going to translate it as yield, because I think in English we don't say that the plant, that the tree gives fruit. I mean, we do say it gives fruit, but yielding I think might be better. Whatever, I can do both. Let's do both. Yield. Okay, yeah. So what is the root? Giving or being given? Okay, yeah, Ayala.
What is mitzod ra'im?
Yes. Okay. So what does mitzod ra'im refer to? Okay. So how do we translate mitzod, and what distinguishes? What does the qualification add? Yeah. Rivki.
Yeah. In terms of, I think this might be related or similar to number 3,
Mhm.
but what is the tzaddik actually doing? Like, is this a product of just him being a
Okay,
tzaddik?
that's a great question. Okay, so yeah, so what are the tzadikim doing here? Okay, are they actually like? I mean, it's not even clear if the pasuk. Let's see, is the pasuk describing them as acting or as passive recipients? And either way, how are they being differentiated / compared to the Russia, right? I mean, at the end of the day, it is these are opposites somehow, so they are being compared somehow. So, like, in other words, is it just saying that they are not coveting? Is this root thing going on, like the opposite of the coveting? Is it like is the tzadikim being contrasted with the resha'im? You know, like, actually, let's actually make this into a new question. Like, which parts of the pasuk are opposites? Okay, are the tzadikim being compared to the rasha in the first quarter of the pasuk, or to the resha'im in the second quarter? Yeah, Ariel.
Yeah, it's funny. I was gonna ask what the opposites were, but I do have another question.
Okay. Sorry to steal
yeah.
it.
Yeah, my question is like, what's the scenario for, the first and second half of the pasuk?
Okay, so let's just put this as our top question. What scenario is let's say, what decision-making scenario? Yeah, what scenario is this pasuk describing?
And obviously all the definition questions, but also like why would it seems like against the Russia's nature to to desire the fortress of the other resha'im. Like, I'm going with reciting because like why would he care about other resha'im? Like, he just cares about him. He just cares about himself. Like, it seems like.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that's a question that we asked here already, right? Why does the Russia cover what the other resha'im have? Yeah.
Oh, why? Okay.
Yeah. Rivki?
Yeah. Also, I'm not sure if this is included in what you were asking about the opposites, but how exactly are they like coveting the trap situation? Is that supposed to be an opposite of what the tzaddik is doing with the root?
Yeah, I think that's part of the question here. Yeah, I'll leave it as which parts of the pasuk are opposites. Yeah, it is. It's hard. Yeah. What else? I guess one question is, Yael.
This is a minor question, but what's the difference between Russia and resha'im? If there is one.
Right. Yeah, and I like how you said if there is one, because Sadigon just made both of them into a Russia here. All right. So let's say okay, minor question. Is there? I guess what is the difference? What is the difference between Russia and Ra, if there even is one? Yeah, Ariel?
Yeah, sorry, can you scroll back up? Yeah, what does it mean that the tzaddik will be granted in accordance with their root?
Mm-hmm. Right. You're saying with the Sadigon's interpretation.
Yeah, I'm gonna stick with Sadigon.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah.
Here.
So I'm gonna add that to here, which is according to actually, I'm gonna make this into a new question. Let's say like this. What is being given here? Okay, or according to Sadigon, what does it mean to be given in accordance with their root? Yeah. And a lot of the meforshim comment on the fact that this pasuk is chaser. It feels like it's missing a word. The root of the wicked will give what? So which is why that's one advantage. Right? Say it again. Sorry. Yeah. Tzaddik. Yeah. The reason why I said wicked is because Hirsch elegantly solves it by saying that he puts this on the Russia. He's saying the Russia will give a root to the tzaddik. So like that makes it not chaser anymore. Yeah, Isaiah.
So what are the negative consequences of the Russia's
Okay, that was the question I
actions?
was hoping someone would ask. Yeah. Okay. So what are the consequences of the Russia's covetousness? Yeah, Moshe?
You can also add to it that like what's being compared is just the Russia's actions himself in like each situation.
Right. Yeah, that's a good question. Right. Or a good possibility, which is, or are we just comparing the Russia to himself, something like that? Okay. I think we need to ask our usual question. Let's ask our usual definition question here. I'm going to actually put that into. You know what? Let's do this. Where did my question? Oh, yeah. Let's actually change this minor question to a major question. What are the definitions of tzaddik and Russia in this context? And then what is the difference between Russia and Rav, if there is one? Yeah, Isaiah?
Why are things sometimes plural and sometimes singular in this pasuk?
Okay, right. So that is another minor question, which is minor question. Why are some things plural and others singular in this pasuk? Okay. Yes.
Isn't one of our basic questions, who is this directed towards?
Yes, good. That was the one we were missing. Who is the intended audience of this pasuk, and what is the practical application?
Did we ask what a shorish was?
I believe we did. Yeah. What does root of the tzadikim refer to, and is the root being giving or is it being given? Yeah. Okay. I think we have. Do we ask? We didn't ask what coveting means. What does covet mean in this context? And just to we might as well review this here because it is reasonable to assume that Shlomo HaMelech is assuming that we know Torah. Okay. Well, I find this, Rivki, you can say what you want to say.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask a general question, which is, I think that I started to form like a very, not even, it's like a quarter baked idea, and I was wondering.
Okay.
Are there any other psukim that speak about like the Russia playing on other people in like that category? Because I just can't remember anything.
Good question. You mean like how the Russia interacts or feels about other resha'im?
Yeah, meaning I feel like we often say like, oh, like the Russia acts this type of way towards this type of person,
Right.
or like, but not necessarily like people.
None comes to mind. I mean, I'm not so confident that I would say that it's not there at all.
Yeah.
Is there honor among thieves?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That's that is an American or English proverb that deals with that. Hold on just a second here. It's a good question though. I just don't know the answer. Okay. See, this is one that I am. Oops. All right, I'm a little embarrassed about this, that I don't remember where the Rambam codifies losach mode. I thought it was in Hilchos Mechira. Okay, I'm gonna have to look this up. Hold on just a second here. Let's do the Hakdama and the Chalukas Hasfarim and lo sach mode. Nope. Oh, Gazela Vaveda. Yeah, I should have known that. Okay. All right. So let's look here. Just 1 second. What I'm doing is I'm looking up. So it's one of the lotases in the Aseret Dibros, right? It's the 10th one. And I just have to find it here of don't covet. And we need to know what the definition is in order to understand it. Okay. So we need to go to Sefer Nizkim. Oh boy. I should have looked at what parak it is. Hold on. Okay. In case anyone's wondering. 10th parak?
I think so.
Okay. I trusted you. All right. Maybe I searched for it wrong. Let's see. First parak. Yeah. Okay. First parak. Interesting. Okay. So quick halakhic lesson here. So I think for people who have not learned the halacha, I think there's an assumption that don't covet means you shouldn't be jealous of something. In fact, that's usually how like high schoolers translate it, like don't be jealous of things. But here's the actual halacha. Kol hachomid avdo o amaso o beso v'kelo shel chavero. Anyone who covets the servant or the maidservant or the house or the possessions, the implements of his fellow, or anything that it is possible to acquire from him. Okay, so this is only applied to like tangible items that can be transferred in ownership. V'hichpid alav b'ra'im, and he pressures him with friends. Sorry, b'ra'im. I said ra'im because of our pasuk. He pressures him with friends. V'hiftzir bo, and another word for pressures, he weighs upon him with friends and he pressures him until he buys it from him. Even though he gave him a lot of money, he violates a lotase. Shnemar, as it says, lo sachmo, don't covet. Okay, so in other words, let's say like Ariel has a car which he does not want to sell, and I go up to him and I say, come on, sell me the car, just sell me the car, and I get all of his friends, and I get them to guilt him into selling the car, and he sells it to me willingly, and he gives me and I give him a lot of money. Even though it's a legitimate sale, I violate this lotase. Okay, the ein lokin alav zeh. There's no whiplashes on this she'ein bo ma'aseh, because there's no action. So you see from there. Oh, sorry. The eino over alav zeh ad sheyikach hachefetz shechamad. You only violate this commandment once you take the object that you coveted. In Shnemar, as it says, lo sachmo kesef v'zahav alehem v'lakach talach. Don't covet silver and gold that is upon them and take them for yourselves. It has to be a coveting that involves an action. Now, I know he just got done saying that it doesn't have an action, but the way this works, this is like a classic example of how really the prohibition is on the feeling, but it's only on having the feeling once it gets to the degree where it expresses itself in action. So the action is really just like the litmus test for having violated the lotase. And I was just talking with someone today with my charusa, who is very libertarian, and he said, he says, I have to accept the fact that the Torah is not libertarian. The Torah is not, is not communist, but it's also not totally capitalist, and this is an example. It's like in a capitalist system, or, according to libertarian principles, I should be able to get you to sell stuff and not be in violation. And as long as you make a willing sale, then that's it, So that's the Torah's view of lo sachmod. Okay. So coveting a strong desire that has within it the capacity to get you to take action. Now, I'm not saying that this case means that the Russia went through that exact thing where he's pressuring his fellow resha'im to sell their property. I'm just giving you a Torah background that might or might not be relevant.
Yeah, actually, I remember Rebbe gave shir on this on Shavuos one year.
Oh, I also remember that. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So let me copy and paste the questions into the chat as usual. I think I'm gonna have to do this one in two batches. 6 and then 7 through 12. Okay. And let us take our thinking minute.
Wait, can I just ask a question?
Sure.
I came a little bit late, so somebody might have asked it.
Yeah.
Does anybody say this is kind of Russia and the tzaddik working together, sort of, that this is kind of what the Russia yearns for, and that tzadikim kind of allow for this? I guess.
So the closest thing I've seen to that, the only one I've seen so far who makes them interact is Rav Hirsch. The wicked one desires the prey of evil men, yet contributes to the root of the righteous. So he is describing a some sort of interaction there. Also, I think who else said this? Did one of the other? Oh yeah, the art scroll says a wicked person craves spoils of evildoers, but the root of the righteous will provide. No, actually, for them probably is for the righteous. So yeah, I wouldn't rule that out, Avital, but I just Rav Hirsch is the closest one I've seen to say something like that. Okay, let's take our minute to think, and obviously you're going to have to take a stance on how to translate Metzod. I'll add in the other translation just for kicks. Even though I don't think people say that. Hold on. Siege works. Okay, Isaiah, what do you got?
Okay, so I'm thinking that maybe what's happening is that how to explain that Russia in a group of resha'im, like they sort of set out like traps of like they'll flaunt their wealth, they'll do things to make people like desire them, and the resha'im, each Russia themselves like is desirous of other people's stuff because of this culture and because they don't have like perfected midos.
Okay.
So it's like this like den of
covetousness.
Covetousness. But the tzadikim, like in a group of tzadikim, it's not like you wouldn't have this culture. Like people aren't like trying to make overt like pronounces of like wealth and stuff like that, where people are going to desire them. So like the culture of tzadikim like creates everyone like rooted in their own stuff, not like desiring other people's objects and stuff.
That's a great idea. That's a really great idea. Anyone want to add to that? I'll have to look for.
Can you restate that?
Yeah, I'll do one better. I'll try to type it up. Okay, so the resha'im, I'm gonna go ahead and plug in a definition that we have here. The resha'im, so it's it's interesting. This actually works out with two definitions of Russia. So it works out with our definition, are either who are like driven towards self-glorification. Okay, or according to the Tehillim definition in Tehillim 1:1, who are like driven for profit. Okay, like that's the Tehillim definition. Will create a culture in which each Russia flaunts. Is it okay? I always get, is it flaunt? Is that when you show off, or is it flout? Flaunt, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Flaunts. Yeah, to display something, to provoke envy, right? Flaunts his own wealth. This in turn will make other resha'im jealous, and this covetousness will feed itself in a toxic cycle, okay, which will often lead to actual evil doing. Okay, in other words, like the reason why the Rambam codifies, I know I'm adding more than you're saying, Isaiah, but I just want to like follow this idea wherever it goes. The reason why the Rambam puts this in Gazela Vaveda, which is the laws of robbery and lost items, is because this is connected to this leads people to commit actual crimes. Okay, so in contrast, the tzadikim, okay, who are driven to give and to provide for everyone's needs will not, sorry, let's say a group of tzadikim, okay, who are driven to give and to provide for everyone's needs will not foster such a culture, okay, but instead, did you say something instead? What'll happen, Isaiah? Or anyone have any idea about how we could like round this out? I think we're close to a full idea here.
Yes.
I just missed like the last sentence of what you said.
I said, did you have an explanation for what they're going to do instead? So you said that it won't have this culture of the Russia where they're fostering. I
think I was thinking that they will instead be content with what they have.
Okay, so that's definitely true. I'll say that we'll be content with what they have. But I feel like the pasuk is saying, okay, well, so how did you interpret shorsh tzadikim yitain? Or first of all, how did you translate that?
I didn't think about how I translate it, but interpretation was like they're rooted in their own like world, their own possessions.
Okay, so we either have to translate it as
I think it's like it gives a root to the tzadikim, like a root.
Okay, Okay, so a root will be given to them. Okay, yeah. So I'm tempted to read it as the root of the tzadikim is to give, which is, to me, the reason why I'm drawn to that is because that's consistent with the way that we look at tzadikim now. So it does. I mean, I think they will be content with what they have, but they're also going to have they're going to lead to a community where people are sharing the good that they have instead of hoarding it. Because in a Russia community, it's almost funny to call it a community, but in a Russia community, if I give to you, I'm taking away from myself. And the only reason I'm going to give to you is if somehow giving to you is going to give me more power, to be able to manipulate you, So in a tzadikim thing, so I'm going to say they're content with what they have and they share it because they know that this is good for everyone. Yeah. Does someone else want to say something for
Yeah, can I comment on that?
Sure. And then after that, Ariel. Yeah.
So I was gonna kind of, like you're saying, I think this might be like the same thing, but just in terms of how you read the pasuk, that it's like with the resha'im, maybe this is like a response to why it's in singular versus like the plural, that the rasha, when he's looking at other resha'im, they're not like a community, like you were saying. It's weird to call them a community.
Okay.
But with the tzadikim, whenever they're giving, it's still a plural of tzadikim, and that's what like gives to it, that it's a system kind of that like feeds itself.
And it's a common root that they have. So that's the singular. Okay, all right. So when let's just do a little methodology here. So when we have a question that's a minor question, right? And I think I identified it as that. Yeah. Why are some things plural and the other things singular? My policy always is, I'm not like the Malbim, or I'm not like Rav Hirsch. So I don't think that those details are essential to the idea. My policy always is, we'll try to explain it in line with the idea. And if it harmonizes with it and adds a nuance, great. And if it doesn't, then I'm not going to lose sleep over it. So what Avital said is perfect nuance here, right? Because it's describing the Russia as singular because really he's not part of a community. He might find himself in a community, but each man is for himself, and so he's not really part of them. Whereas the tzadikim, they're described as plural because they're a real community and they have this common shoresh, this root, which is, the root of the fact that we're all Tselem Elokim, all human beings, all with the same needs, and that's going to be the source of their prosperity. Yeah, Ariel?
I was thinking similarly to Isaiah's idea. My only question is, that bothered me was like, why is it? Meaning, why are we limiting it to a case of where resha'im are hanging out with other resha'im? I mean, technically speaking, they could be jealous of tzadikim also. So like, why is it limited to other resha'im?
That's a good question. Anyone want to answer that?
Yeah, I actually have. Hold on, just give me 1 second.
Sure.
So my idea was actually, and I think it actually does answer Ariel's question, and I'm not sure if it's its own idea completely or if it's also
fair enough.
But I'll start with that half because it answers, I think, Ariel's question. Yeah. So I was thinking, why is the pasuk written in this way? And that's what I was asking before about other psukim that would potentially speak about this. So I was thinking that we could understand it as the Rasha, because we know that his entire life is just all egotistical, even with his own people. Like we have this concept of like in group, out group, that when you have people that you're similar to, that you just have like a bias toward them automatically. Yeah. And like I'm thinking that we could say that the Rasha doesn't even have this complex in his head, because at the end of the day, like when it comes down to it, let's say if like that concept of if two people are arrested that work together and then you see who's gonna like rat first. Yeah. If they're both resha'im, they probably would both rat first. I think that like at least that's how I was understanding that when you're looking at who to interact with, like even if let's say it was a rush, I'm not saying this pasuk is only written for resha'im, but just to know like resha'im interacting with other resha'im don't even interact like tzadikim would interact with other tzadikim. Like they still, because there's no sense of community. Does that make sense?
Okay, good. So just to put this in the direct answer to Ariel's question, then I'll summarize. Is the direct answer is it really does mean they're jealous of everyone, but they're even jealous of people who are following the same lifestyle and in their own group. There are other cases where, let's say, like you identify with a certain group and you're happy for their successes, but with the resha'im, they don't even feel happiness for each other's successes. They're envious of that. And I also think that there's an answer within what Isaiah said, which is that the Russia is going to show off more than the average person. So like, if the point of the pasuk is to state the extremes, which is, Mishlei's derech, it's going to say that, the more into this culture you get, the worse the problem is going to get, so it's using this case where like these resha'im are propelling themselves to do even worse. And I think we can answer another question also, which is that who do you say this pasuk is for?
Well, I was saying like just anyone that it's just very basic, like who you want to interact with, but.
Right. Okay. So I think that I think though that it is this is the classic Mishlei audience, which is the son who is remember the first warning to the son is tempting him to not give in to these resha'im who are like going around and stealing stuff. Let's just reread it. Bini, my son, my son, if sinners seduce you, do not give in. Im yomru. Oh, by the way, I got to point out because I haven't done this in this year yet. Al HaTorah has added Shva Naz and Shva Nach to all of Tanakh. So the bolded Shva is Shva Na, and the non one is Shva Nach. So now you can read Tanakh more precisely. Im Yomeru Lecha Itanu Nerva Ladam. If they say, come with us, let us lurk in ambush for blood. Nitzpana Lanaki Chinam. Let us wait for the innocent person for no reason. Nivlaim Kisha Chaim. We will swallow them alive like the grave. Utmin Kir Debor. And like those who are whole who descend to the pit. Kol hon yakar nimsa, all precious wealth we will find. Nimale vatenu shala, we will fill our houses with spoils. Goralcha tapil besochenu, throw your lot in with us. Kis echad yihi lekulanu, we will all have one pouch, like one money sack. Beni, my son, al telech b'derech itam, don't go on a path with them. Mina raglecha minisivasam, withhold your foot from their ways. Ki raglehem lara yarutzu, their feet run to do evil. V'yimaharu lishpoch dam, and they hasten to spill blood. Kichina mazora harashas ve'nei kol bal kanaf, the net is spread with free bait for every winged creature. V'heim ladamam yerovu yitzpenu lanavshosam, and they lurk for their blood. They seek their souls. Kain orchos kol botei abata es nefesh ba'alav yikach. So are the ways of all people who steal wealth. The soul of their masters will take. So, but the key point here is what the line. Join our gang and we'll all get money and we'll all share it. That's what they say, but that's not really how it turns out, because what happens is they're in fierce competition with each other, and that gang member is going to stab you in the back, either figuratively or literally, if it's going to mean him getting more money, So like, you don't want to get in, they're going to lure you with the prospect of community, but it really is not like that. It really is the opposite of community, and you're going to suffer for it. Okay. Any other things to contribute to this idea? Because I think that idea feels like it's complete. I like that. Okay, Rivki, you're next.
Yeah. So I'm gonna start with the first half because I was just talking about the first half. Now I'm confused. But basically, my idea, like I was saying, I don't know if it's a different idea than Isaiah's because there are some nuances. So yeah, the first half I was just kind of saying that. It's in my head, this is speaking to, like you were just saying, someone who is looking for what people to interact with or what groups to join or whatever it is. So it's saying that you should be aware that in this group, there is no real group and that you should, like, there's no community there. And then the second half, I think, really also highlights that as well, because they're saying not only are they not doing that, but with the tzaddik, you see the contrast of what they are doing. And I was thinking maybe this is why it just says yitain. It doesn't even give a description, is because it reminded me of like that saying, like, teach a man to fish and you're feeding him, like that whole situation. So I was thinking that it could be like that if you're hanging out with tzadikim, they're going to teach you their ways, and through what they give you, whether it's direct, like, knowledge or indirect knowledge, then they're going to be teaching you how to live their lifestyle. And then you obviously see the opposite, that if you hang out with resha'im, you're not only not going to get that, but you're going to get even worse. Like, they're literally going to wrong you.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to just, in my mind, this is part of this first idea. So I'm just going to tack it on afterwards. So this is Rivki's contribution, which is that in addition to the consequences and, the material consequences and benefits, each of these groups will also influence your values to become more like them, for better or for worse. Okay, next is my dad. Yes.
So I don't have a complete idea, but I just want to make a comment on the first half.
Yeah.
So what is a rasha really coveting? And he's coveting the cleverness of a rasha who sets traps.
That's
Now,
good.
You know, if you're out in the woods hunting, you could either shoot the bear with your bow and arrow, or you could set a trap, and the
Right.
bear will be immobilized and you'll be able to gain a benefit. If I want to get your money, I can either mug you, or I
Right.
can do Bernie Madoff on you.
Right.
And
Yeah, that's a
so-
good point. So in other words, that I think that that's part of their power fantasy, is that it's not just they're not really in it for the money. The money is really a sign of the power and the dominance, and they really want the dominance. And if you as a Russia can trap somebody, that's like a better display of greatness,
Mhm.
Yeah, that's all right. That's a good observation. I'm gonna write that down just as a side point, or as a starting point. I mean, so the Russia envies covets the trapping done by the other resha'im, because that displays greater power and dominance, which is really what he's after. Okay, good. Ariel.
All right, I might need help for the second half, but
Okay. Second half's the hard one.
yeah, it is really hard, and that's what I'm trying to figure out. But I'll just start. So maybe you could say that the Russia covets the fortress of resha'im. Maybe that means that, like the Russia, he sees, like the problem with the Russia, like their psychology, it's like what they have is never enough.
Right.
So
Right.
like they're living in this fantasy of like there's always more, right?
Right.
So when they see another Russia who when they see another Russia, he may or may not have better things than him, or better like whatever, but the perception is that he has like if you see him, like he has like this security around him,
Yeah.
based off of like either his wealth or his lifestyle or whatever. So the Russia is going to see that as like, wow, he has all these things that's protecting him or whatever. Like, I want that too.
Right.
Meaning like the fortress is the perception that's being conveyed to the other
Okay.
Russia.
So let me give you a nice proof here. Okay, the Meiri pulls a move which I have seen him make a couple times, which I am in favor of, and we'll see what he says for the second half. Did you have something you wanted to say for the second half, or not?
I mean, I'll try.
Okay, sure.
But so okay, fine. So we said that the Russia, he's being deluded into that fantasy of the other resha'im.
Yeah.
But the tzaddik, he's living within reality. Like he understands exactly what the situation is, and I'm using resha'im, by the way, just to know, and maybe it means that like the tzaddik will be granted in accordance with their root. It's like maybe the root is themselves recognizing reality. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay. All right. So let's look at the Meiri, because the Meiri starts off by saying what you're saying, and then we'll see where he goes with it. So he says, Chamad Rasha Mitzod Ra'im B'Shor Tzadikim Yitain. We're just doing this first paragraph here. Pirush Noach, Neve Resha'im. So he says it's the fortress, he says, is the habitation or the house of the Resha'im. Miloshan Lebeis Mitzudos, from the expression of a fortress house. Okay, now here we go. In Yanam, the idea, Migdalim Gavohim Ubutsurim, towers that are tall and fortified, O Ma'aros Shabaslaim Hagvoim, or caves in tall rocks. Velios Besam Chazak Be'enehem, since their houses are strong in their own minds, Lo Yidamu Ba'atmam Tahapuchos Hazmanim, they can't imagine the reversals of fortune. Kara Bateim, and therefore it calls their houses outside Machshavtam, based on their thoughts, Mitzudos, fortresses. V'amar sheharasha chomed ladur be'ohole resha, and says that the Rasha wants to dwell in the tents of wickedness. Rotzon he's dabek im resha'im, to cling with resha'im, v'orach lechavra im pole avin, and to be friends with other doers of iniquity. So the key point here is that when it describes these as fortresses, it's not actually fortresses. Fortresses is a description of their subjective perspective, their subjective view of their houses, and therefore they can't even conceive of the fact that these things are vulnerable in any way. You know, like it's this fantasy of like invulnerability and absolute power and like endurance. Okay, so now let's see what the tzadikim say. V'shor tzadikim yitain, so he says chaser, so it's missing a word. Klomar yitain period, it means it will yield its fruit. Lischaber im tzadikim, to be friends with tzadikim. So what's the point of the pasuk? This, all of this is warning you to not be friends with evildoers. Ki chavraso ta'id alav mihu, because a person's friendships testify about him, about who he is. Chachmei hamusar amru, the sages of ethics say, hamofis al ha'enosh chavraso, the sign of a person or the proof of a person is his friendship. Yishai amar l'David kishashachu l'das es shalom banav. Yishai, that's David's father, told him when he sent him to check on the well-being of his other brothers, "Ves ervasam tikach v'tirgum yonasan v'yas tivahon tialef." Learn their nature. Klomar teda v'tisbonin mi v'mi shehim masmidim lihis arev imahim. You should investigate which company they're hanging out with. Leos chavrasam itam, to be friends with. Eda han hagasam. Then you'll know their conduct. Okay, so he doesn't really spell out the idea as much as I thought. He does say, though, he does talk about the fantasizing of the resha'im. So let's type out what Ariel has so far and see if we can work out the second half. Okay, so Ariel is saying that since the desire of the Rasha is infinite, and since he wants everlasting greatness and absolute power, he will imagine fantasize about the houses of other resha'im. Let's just say estates, right? Like it's not just the physical house, and view them as great fortresses. Okay, and what else did you say? I think you said one more. Am I missing something?
I said that they were being diluted.
Yeah.
By the other, by the other resha'im's perception of. I don't know, what did I say? It sounds like you said it. I don't know. I don't think.
Okay, all right, fine. Now I just want to know if I was missing anything.
Yeah.
Okay, so given that, can we say what the tzadikim are doing? And remember, Ariel's trying to explain Sadigon, which, by the way, we might as well read Sadigon in case it helps. Sadigon says very little. It says Mitzod kan kamo Mitzudat ציון. So there's a little shout out to Mitzudat ציון. Okay. V'hinei zeh mevakesh kavutzas chaverav. This guy seeks the gathering of his friends, tzadikim domehem, and the tzadikim also do the same. So he really doesn't say anything that helps us. Anyone have any?
Yeah, I was
your thing. Yeah,
party thing. Yeah. I was thinking maybe not a full idea, but like as opposed to the fortress, which is like an external showing of strength, the root is something which you can't see, but still strengthens it a lot.
Okay.
So maybe it's
I like
saying
that.
also like the tzadikim will be granted in accordance with they're already satisfied. They're not like searching for something.
Yeah.
And that thing which they're satisfied with will continue to produce for them and hold for them.
Okay. All right. So that's actually very good also. So, it's funny because this is related to Isaiah's idea, which is that in both ideas, then the Rasha gets caught up in the external vision of the of success, and he attaches all of his like desires to that. But hold on a second. In contrast, what makes the tzadikim successful is their root, that which is not visible. Okay, because it's underground, but provides real stability and endurance unlike the illusory wealth of the resha'im that can be overturned in an instant. Okay, and that root is their ability to be satisfied with what they have, and their ability to make the most of the resources at their disposal by doing what is best for the system. I think it's both, right? That they're content with what they have, and then they also take the goods that they have, and instead of hoarding them and being parasitic on the rest of the system, they share it in a way that enables everyone to like bring the system to its maximum yield. Okay, I'm happy with that.
I
Okay.
have another add-on to that.
Yeah, add on. Go ahead.
So based off of I think what the Meiri was saying, I thought he was saying something about like friends or like
Yes. Yeah.
groups. So I kind of like notice this in myself. Like I feel like there's times where I see people either on social media or people who like look like they have a lot of friends or are having a lot of fun with their friends.
Yeah.
And at first I'm like either jealous or I'm like, oh, I wish I had that. And then I like have to remind myself, like, I know these people and I know what their friendships are probably like. And like
Yeah.
they're not secure and they're not friendships that I would want to have. And
Yeah.
kind of reminding myself of that. And then like the friendships of tzadikim are like secure
That's
and
good.
like the communities of them are actually secure, even if they don't look like flaunting on the outside.
Okay, so Ayala's take on the Meiri, who holds this is about friendship. Okay, this is a good reminder not to be taken in by the external flashy trappings. That's pun. I don't know if it's intended or not. Of the of how Russia friendships are portrayed, because that's false. That's an illusion. Instead, look at the causes of what makes good friendships, which are not always visible. Like the type of person that this person is not going to be manifest in the external world. Okay, that's a good take on the Meiri. Okay, Moshe, you're up.
Yeah, so I was kind of thinking Mitzod more in like the vein with fortress, trap, and net.
Okay.
So yeah, so in order to like be a Russia and to like be able to like functionally like live that lifestyle, you have to indulge in the culture of resha'im.
Right.
Whereas a tzaddik doesn't need to indulge in the culture of a tzadikim to really be a tzaddik. Like he as an individual can just live.
Interesting.
So like
Okay.
basically it's like an emotional, for a Russia to really function as a Russia, he needs to have like an emotional security by like placing himself in like social situations where he'll be reinforced. But the tzaddik himself doesn't need that.
Okay, that's good. Someone says something like that in the meforshim. Let me just type out what I'm hearing first. Okay, so Moshe is saying that since I'm gonna just add in a few premises here, and you can tell me if you disagree. So since resha'im are operating in a relative value system, i.e., one in which success is measured relative to one's dominance over other people, the only way to succeed is to how do you say it? The only way to succeed is to engage in the actions of resha'im. I forgot how you say it.
And to like engage in like the culture, like indulge
of the resha'im. Okay. You can't be a Russia in a vacuum. Okay. In contrast, the only thing you need to be a tzaddik is to make tzaddik decisions. Okay. You can be a tzaddik, a lone tzaddik. Okay. And your success is not dependent on how you engage with or how you compare to other people. Okay, that's a good thing. I think there's more to say, but yeah.
I was kind of thinking like maybe part of the reason why tzadikim doesn't distinguish between tzaddik versus tzadikim, where as with Russian resha'im, is to like the tzadikim is like making a point about their mindsets where like there's no distinguishing because like, you know, they themselves already have that like communal feeling, even though like you're really by yourself. By like having the values of the tzaddik, that itself makes you feel like you're in a community.
Okay.
Whereas the Russia is like distinguished because they don't have that.
Okay, so the irony is that even the lone tzaddik is part of a true community insofar as he shares those values, whereas the Russia, even the one who is among other resha'im, is ultimately alone.
No. That was a point about like the text, because like someone mentioned like it just says tzadikim in plural versus like Russia in singular.
Right. Yeah, but I think this answers that though, right? I mean, I think you're answering this question also, is that the tzaddik is part of a true community insofar as he shares those values, and which is why it describes him in the plural, whereas the Russia is ultimately alone because he is just for himself, which is why he is described in the singular. I want to see one of the meforshim said something like this. I just want to quickly skim through and see if I can find him. Or I was imagining it. Oh, check out, we're not going to read this, by the way, just check out how long the Malbim is. It's like an essay. Maybe, was it David? Harasha chomid l'sheves b'mivsar harayim asher yischazku sham la'asos chamas v'hatzadikim inam tzrichim. Yeah, the David. It says Harasha chomid l'sheves. I don't know if this is the same idea, but it's the same like thrust. Harasha chomid l'sheves b'mivsar harayim. The Russia wants to dwell in the fortress of the evildoers, asher yischazku sham la'asos chamas, who will strengthen each other to do violence and robbery. Aval hatzadikim inam tzrichim le'ezer mibachutz. The tzaddik does not need help from outside. Kishorasham yitin piryam haroi. Their root will give them the proper fruit. Me'atzmam yischazku lehetiv la'asos. They will strengthen themselves to act, to do good. So that is exactly what you were saying, is that the Russia needs other. The first part is not exactly what you're saying. He's saying that the Russia needs other resha'im because that's how they're going to do maximum evil. I like your idea better, which is that the Russia needs other resha'im even in order to succeed, like in terms of his own values. But the tzaddik can do it on his own. So that's a good idea. Okay. Next, that was a good idea. Next is my dad.
So just to put a point on what Moshe was saying.
Yeah.
Great example of that is the movie Goodfellas.
Yeah.
And being a made man in the mafia. And if you're a made man in the mafia, you're protected. You can do anything. You can get away with anything. There's no one can touch you. No one can punish you. And if you cross a guy, Joe Pesci kills a mafia made man. And it takes years and years and years till they track him down and they kill Joe.
So I would argue that, I mean, you know more about mafia than I do probably from all the movies and books, but like, I would argue that invulnerability is an illusion because, the other threat is the higher up you get in the mafia, the more of a chance there is that you're going to be betrayed by someone, someone who's close to you. So it really is a very, very tenuous and precarious type of security.
I have to agree. It gives the appearance.
Yeah.
Some of the manifestations, but you put yourself at risk.
Right.
You're a target. You're a target.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. So that fits in very well with Ariel's thing also of like, it's the illusion of a fortress. But really it's actually, that's actually very good. See, okay. There's this theory that we've talked about sometimes. I don't know so much in this shiur, but in our morning shiur, where when Shlomo Melech uses a deliberately ambiguous term, sometimes it is, the ambiguity works to his advantage, which is why he uses it. So the Russia desires the fortress of the evil, but in reality, it's a trap of the evil. That very thing can itself be a trap. I'm just going to add that here, which is perhaps it uses the ambiguous term mitzod because the Russia thinks it's a fortress of invulnerability, but in reality, it's a trap. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Very good. So
just going back to the other idea about a friend,
Yeah.
Rav Pesach says sometimes a svara needs a friend.
Yeah,
So,
that's true.
true
Okay.
friends.
Yep. Okay. So let's the one that I wanted to do other than the meiri is the one to do Rבינו Yona. Okay. And we've already done the Metzudas also. Okay, so let's do Rבינו Yona, and then maybe we'll call it a night. Okay, so maybe we'll do the Derech Nister of the Meiri also. Okay, so Rבינו Yona says, I'm gonna do what I usually do is I'm gonna get my my one with a punctuation. Where did I put it? There's a couple of weird things that the lack of punctuation did in the All Torah version. Okay. Chamad Rasha Metod Raim. Harasha Chomed Revach Hagazlanim V'Haraim. So the Rasha covets the profit of the thieves and the evildoers. Umakane B'Tevuas Anshe Hachamas, and he is jealous of the produce or the like the yield of the men of the robbers. Why? Shahim Ose Ha'osher Bli Amal, because they're the ones who make wealth without working. Okay, so this is an interesting angle already, is that he's saying that the reason why, like, someone asked earlier, why isn't he jealous of all people who have money? Well, you could be jealous of someone who has to work really hard for a living, or you could be jealous of the people who just steal their money, and make easy money. Okay, so that's why they're jealous. Okay, V'shorsh tzadikim yitain, the root of the tzaddik gives harasha toe benafsho, the rasha errs in his soul. Ki tzaddik yitain shorish v'lohara, because the tzaddik will give a root. I might need to modify this translation. Will give a root and will not cause evil. Al kain ein lachmon mitzod haraim kim darchei tzaddikim. Therefore, you should not covet the fortress of the resha'im, but only the ways of the tzaddikim. Kinyan shenemar, as it says, and he brings a bunch of proofs for how the word is used. Oh, sorry. It says in 23:17, which we did in our morning share a couple of months ago. Don't let your heart be jealous of sinners. It says will give in a singular. So he says that yitain means it will yield fruit. Okay. Here's the idea. The tzaddik gives forth a root every day. Rotzalomar, meaning to say, he is compared in every action that he does. He's compared to Elon, like a tree, that is constantly spreading out its roots. As it is said, like in Tehillim, it compares him to a tree planted firmly on streams of water. Let's just read that. Tehillim 1:3. The tzaddik will be like a tree planted on streams of water, meaning like imagine like a stream of water, and a tree is planted like on the river banks where its roots will go down and there will be water there. Asher pirio yitain beito, it will give forth its fruit in its time, and its leaf will not wither. And everything he does will succeed. Lochen harashayim, not so for the wicked. Ki'im kamot asher tidefenu ruach. They're like chaff that is blown about by the wind. Okay, so Rבינו Yona goes on and he says, Ukamo she'in haruchos okros ilan shesharasha merubin mimakomo. Just as great winds will not uproot a tree that has abundant roots, won't uproot it from its place. Kain lo yehadefenu hatzaros as a tzaddik, v'lo yivleuhu mimakomo. So too, catastrophes will not push the tzaddik away and will not swallow him up from his place. Harashayim b'harayim, but the wicked and the evildoers in to'eles v'ezer b'mitzodam v'otram, there is no help in their fortress and their wealth. Ki'in lahem short, because they have no roots. V'tzara kala tehdafim, a light catastrophe will push them away. Usachale osam karegan, and will destroy them instantaneously. V'chein hu omer, that's why it says in Tehillim, like we just read, that the resha'im are like chaff that are blown away. Ki yavru b'tzara kala, they go away with a brief tzara. V'eid neman al kavanas hamikra hazeh al bir hamashal ki hu kasher bi'arnu inyan hamikra shal acharav. Okay, so he quotes a proof from the next pasuk from next week, but we won't read that. Okay, so what is he saying? So he's saying, Rבינו Yona is saying, I'm going to type this out, but we have to figure out the idea. Okay, Rבינו Yona says the resha'im, so the Russia envies other resha'im who make money easily by stealing it. But the tzaddik, what do you say about the tzaddik first before the tzaddik? He didn't say anything at first. Okay, fine. But the tzaddik is like, is like a tree that is constantly spreading out its roots. Consequently, a strong wind, okay, i.e. a trouble or catastrophe, will not uproot the tzaddik, but it will totally destroy the rasha. So what's the idea? And what is the analogy?
I mean, it seems like like the resha'im, they don't have a lot to stand on versus the tzaddik, they do.
Yeah.
They're rooted in.
Okay, right. So this actually, I think I mentioned to Ariel right before Shiur started. This is very much in line with the pasuk we're doing in the morning, which is al terov rasha l'nevei tzaddik. Al terov rasha l'nevei tzaddik. Al teshadid rivtzo. You rasha, don't ambush the home of the tzaddik. Don't plunder his dwelling place. Ki sheva yipol tzaddik v'kam. The tzaddik falls 7 times and gets up. Resha'im yikashlu bara. But the resha'im will stumble in ra here means harm, okay, the way we're saying it. So Isaac Lister said an idea this morning that the tzaddik is constantly, because the tzaddik is involved in the good of the system that he's a part of, in the community that he's a part of, he's constantly like spreading out his roots, and like people are appreciating what he does. People are emulating him. People are learning from him how to better like care for the community or whatever. So if something like wipes out his money or his or something bad happens to him, then people will step up to help him, because he's laid his roots in the community. But the rasha is just going around stealing. So when something bad happens to them, no one is going to come to their help. Because they've just gone and stolen, and they're not establishing anything permanent. Okay, so I think that's the idea here, which is the method used by the rasha is actually, let me see. Hold on a second. The method used by the tzaddik, the tzaddik is constantly like
at risk.
You're talking about the rasha is constantly at risk, right? Yeah, the tzaddik is constantly building a support system by giving back to the community and teaching the community how to support each other. So if the tzaddik suffers a loss, there will be a rich system and many willing helpers to get him back on track. In contrast, the rasha's wealth builds no communities and generates a lot of ill will. So if he falters, no one will help him, and they may even hasten his downfall.
I mean, like a good example of like our system is like we have tzedakah,
right?
Like, that's like,
yeah, if you have someone who's a baal tzedakah in a community and they're constantly helping people, you can bet that when that person is in a state of need, then there will be people who will reciprocate because they'll be appreciative for all that that person has done. But if you have a person who's just going around and like exploiting people, and then that guy has like a bad situation, no one's going to help. Yeah, Rifki?
Yeah, I was just gonna say that I think it's ironic that this pasuk like was said in a very interesting way, and that it seems like challenging, because I feel like, at least like by Rabbeinu Yona's idea, that it's a very like classic Mishlei Podcast, like it really is.
Right. Yeah. In fact, that's the question on Rabbeinu Yona's thing is like, what's the chiddush going to Rabbeinu Yona? I feel like we've had this idea a couple of pasukim earlier. Let's just see what this was reminding me of a pasuk that we did in a Monday Night Shiur. Yeah. This one, lo yikon adam b'resha v'shor tzadikim bal yimot. The person will not be established in wickedness, but the root of the tzaddik will not falter. Let's see what Rבינו Yona said on that. Im tira Russia v'tovlo. If you see a Russia and good stuff is happening to him, da shalo timshach shalvaso. You should know that his tranquility will not last. Ki lo yikon adam b'resha sheyimashich tov lazaro. Oh, so this is the one that he says it's about the his offspring. Funny that Rבינו Yona doesn't say about the offspring here. This one he says it's all about the offspring. I'll read it anyway. It says you should know that the tranquility of the Russia will not last because a person will not be established in wickedness. Sheyimashich tov lazaro, that the good will not last for his offspring. Ki ein acheres l'resha achris l'resha. There's no lasting end to wickedness. Oh look, he quotes. No, that's not our pasuk. There's no lasting outcome for evil. But the root of the tzadikim will not falter. If something misfortune happens to him, the tzara and a catastrophe, his root will not falter forever. There's a lasting end for him. So this is saying this pasuk is addressing when you see the Russia in a state of good and you see the tzaddik in a state of bad, don't think that those are indicative of their ultimate state. The Russia's ultimate state is going to be for destruction. The tzaddik's ultimate state is going to be for good. This pasuk is emphasizing more the causes behind that, which is that the tzaddik is sending out roots. And I think this is also about how other people interact with him, whereas the other pasuk was not. And the Russia does not have a real community, and they're gonna and it's just a bunch of swindlers. And you know what's gonna happen, by the way? The only people who the Russia hangs out with are other people who are going to take advantage when he is in a state of lack. Like if this Russia starts to fail, those other resha'im are going to swarm in and just like plunder him. You know, it's going to be like a very dog eat dog world. Yeah, Ariel.
Yeah, I think you just said it. But did you say that like this pasuk is more focused on the tzadikim, like giving roots, and the other pasuk is referring to like, all right, this is just the reality, or this is what happens versus this is like.
So I said that, but I think I want to change it. I think the previous pasuk is talking more about the way that the value system of the Russia and the value system of the tzaddik and how they make decisions. But our pasuk is talking about how their community interacts with them. That the community of the resha'im are like vultures that are swarming for anyone who's weak, and they're just going to mercilessly take from him no matter what. And so if this Russia falls, since he got all of his money from stealing from people, they're not going to help him, and his fellow resha'im are going to swarm on him. Whereas the tzadikim are spreading out roots and building a community, and they'll come in to help him. So a completely different focus, even if it has the same purpose of the pasuk. Yeah, Moshe.
How would Rבינו Yona read Chabad? Like, because how would that be desirable to him?
Good question. So the way he read it was he said that he covets it because it's easy wealth. And it sounds like what he's saying is that this is the trap. The trap is that the Russia sees that, okay, make money honestly, and like it'll be slow and hard and like, and not guaranteed. Or I could just join these guys and go steal the money and get instant wealth and like, and I've got it made, And he doesn't see that when you pledge yourself to that value system in that community, you're setting yourself up for this like horrendous failure if anything goes wrong. Yeah. Okay. Very good. Are we up for one last metaphorical interpretation?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Me'iרי says metaphorical, a very short one. Doesn't give us much to work with. Kara haguf mitzod ra'im. It calls the body a fortress of evildoers. Shu mishkan hakochos hagufanios, because it is the dwelling of the bodily faculties. Ki hateva nimshach achar hadvarim ha'ahuvi metzlo. A person's instinctual nature is drawn after things that are beloved to it. Okay, so in other words, this is not calling it ra in the sense that it's evil. It's calling it ra in the sense that it's animalistic. Right, that you're the same way we call it Yetzer Hara, not because Yetzer Hara wants to do evil, but because it acts like an animal, and that's going to be detrimental to the human. So your body, your bodily faculties, your body is called the fortress of evildoers, and the evildoers are all of your faculties which want things that are really like not good for you, right? So let's say like your appetitive faculty, right? Your appetites just want good tasting food, even if it's really unhealthy for you, or your sexual drive wants to be satisfied, even if it means like doing stuff that's harmful, you know. V'shorsh tzadikim yitain pirio, but the root of the tzadikim will give its fruit. Upana lamala eina v'libo, and it will be looking upwards with his eyes and his heart. To walk before Hashem in the land of the living. And he doesn't explain. So I assume that the root is going to be the Yitzer HaTov. Yeah. So what is he saying here, though? That was very, very little that he supplied us with. Let's go back to the pasuk. So let me just do the meiri's metaphorical take. Okay, so he didn't even explain what the covetousness is.
Can you say over what he's saying one more time?
Yeah, I'll read it again. It's so short. He says, I'll type it out even because it's so short. Okay, so he says, I get this the right font. Okay. It calls the body a fortress of evildoers because it is the dwelling place of the bodily faculties. Okay, and I'm going to add in here, for example, appetite, appetitive faculty, sexual drive, greed, etc. Okay, kiateva, because a person's instinctual nature nimshach achar advarim hahuvim etzlo, is drawn after the things it loves. The shorsh tzadikim yitain pirio, okay, the root of the righteous will yield its fruit, and its eyes and heart are turned upwards to walk before Hashem in the lands of the living. That's all he says.
I mean, yeah, I don't know. It seems like he's saying that there are like multiple parts of man.
Yeah.
And I mean, I feel like I'm just restating the different words, but
yeah. I mean, he's definitely, this is all about within the person, right? And the root of the righteous, I'm assuming, assumption. Okay, let's say editor. The intellect will be looking towards Hashem's values and will receive beneficial results. Okay, but I don't exactly know what he's getting at here.
It
like,
sounds kind of like
facts.
it's a
He's not really stating anything else. You know, like he's just
he's just decoding the little parts. Yeah, Moshe.
It sounds kind of like making maybe he's like specifying that's like a self-fulfilling or self-perpetuating thing.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, the only thing I'm not getting is what the Russia and the covetousness is, you know?
Yeah.
And it's hard to tell what he's saying there. Okay, all right, we can think.
I mean, on that, I mean, maybe you could say that like meaning like the Russia, like if you kind of think about it, like I like to make a joke sometimes where like all kids are resha'im.
Yeah.
You know, it's like imagine,
that, right? I mean, because I'll say that the Yitzer Tov doesn't come into existence until you're bar mitzvah.
Yeah, like that just means that like they're, you know, it's all about themselves, and like like maybe he's saying that you have to recognize that your body in essence is it you know, in that sense, if it's just purely engaged in the physical world without, you know, like the other aspect of what, you know, life's about, like you know, being in the eyes of Hashem or whatever, like that is kind of like in a way rishus in a way.
Right. Yeah. But I feel like it's kind of like an ikar chasam in a sefer. Like the main idea, the way we've been talking about it, is the covetousness, and that's the one part he doesn't even comment on, you know.
Well, it seems like it's a little obvious from the way he's putting it, because like our bodies desire these things.
Right. Yeah, that could be that he's using the addiction of the physical desires and saying that that's metaphorically coveting. Right. Yeah.
You're not satisfied though.
I'm not satisfied. No.
No.
Okay, I think we got good ideas. Let's just summarize and then call it a night. Okay, so we have first idea was from Isaiah, which is that the Russia covets the fortresses of the other resha'im, because if you're a rasha, then you are going to be driven for self-glorification, and you're going to show it off, because that's the kiyum. That's the whole reason why you're getting all this wealth, is that you can lord it over everyone else. So it's going to foster a culture where everyone is trying to outdo everyone else, and that's going to make people jealous. And by the way, like I mentioned social media, I mean, on many forms of social media, that's what happens, is everyone is trying to get social admiration. And so they're putting forth these fantasy-based images, and it just perpetuates everyone else posing and like making their own fantasy images. And it's a very, very toxic thing. And what's going to happen is, because these are actual resha'im, not in the social media thing necessarily, but these resha'im is, it is going to, do we say a consequence here? Well, you're gonna. The main consequence is you're not going to be happy, right? You're going to be in a constant state of desiring that you're never going to get, and you're going to be engaged in behaviors of wickedness that are going to have their own consequences.
It's also depression too. You'll just be depressed.
Very coheless, right? Exactly. Yeah. Actual evil doing, I think I meant to say. Not to mention constant depression. Okay. In contrast, the tzadikim, who are not trying to outdo each other, they're just trying to provide for their needs and for the needs of the people around them. That's going to lead to a healthy cycle where everyone's going to be contributing to each other's well-being, and you're not going to have this vicious thing, and everyone's going to want to share with each other, and that's going to be a much happier existence. And that's where Avital introduced the idea that the rasha, despite physically being in a community, is not truly part of a community, because it's everyone for themselves. And the tzadikim are really part of a community. And then Rivki mentioned that these people are also going to warp or benefit your values. Okay, Ariel and Ayala, at least the way I had the idea here, said that that the rasha's desire is infinite, and he's going to build up in his mind what the other resha'im have as this fantasy-based fortress and palace, and think that that they and he are going to be invulnerable. Okay, that's what the meiri added to that. And in reality, it's not invulnerable. In fact, all it takes is one disaster, and no one's going to come to their. Hold on, just a second here. No, I'm mixing ideas with Rabbeinu and Yona. Sorry. So the tzadikim have a root, which is their values and the way they operate, and that's going to provide real stability and endurance. And they'll be satisfied with what they have. And the reminder in terms of the meiri's emphasis on friendship is, don't look at the external features and try to partake of that. Look at what makes the person who they are. In the case of the tzaddik, then that's going to lead to actual long-lasting friendships. Moshe's idea is the resha'im are, if you value what the resha'im value, you're going to have to partake in that system in order to exert dominance over these other people, and then that's going to draw you into all this bad stuff. But the tzaddik can be a tzaddik when he's alone, and the irony is that the tzaddik, in operating on making tzaddik decisions, is joining a whole worldwide community of tzaddikim, even if he's not actually around them, because he shares in their values. Whereas the resha'im are intrinsically each man for himself. Rabbeinu Yona is saying this idea that the community, the rasha plunders wealth to get easy money and is left with no lasting community. And when he goes down, no one will help him, and all the other resha'im will swarm him. Whereas the tzaddik is constantly sowing seeds and spreading roots and helping the people around him and teaching other people how to build the community. So when he falters, people will come and help him, and his decision-making will also have trained him in being satisfied with what he has. And therefore it's a much better long-term investment to be a tzaddik. And then we had this idea as well about how the rasha wants not only the wealth, but he wants to trap other people. There's a kiyum in that. And we also had this idea of the ambiguity of mitzod being he thinks it's a fortress, but really it's a trap. Okay, that was a good haul. Okay, that ended up being good. And this is a good example. I think the point Rivki made about the Rabbeinu Yona seeming like a cliche idea, I'm glad you said that, because then when we went back and looked at the other pasuk, we did see a nuance in the two ideas, and that's an important step to take. Okay, very nice. Okay, any other things before we stop for tonight?
Did you say something earlier about the meiri? I think I might have missed, or not really.
I only said about the meiri something like much earlier in the shiur or in this review here.
Yeah, well, I thought you brought him up earlier and I missed.
Yeah, I brought him
something.
up because I thought it supported Ariel's whole idea, but it just supported Ariel's reading. Meiri's the one who says that it's called a fortress because that's how they see it, but it's not really a fortress. And Ariel was saying how like the resha'im like have this exaggerated view of what their wealth is and they're deluding themselves.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Okay. Have a good night, everyone.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.